Hello, dear listener, and welcome back to the podcast on which we talk about horror. Sometimes we talk about other things, and sometimes we swear. Happy Halloween, although it may or may not be Halloween when you're listening to this. This is the final installment, probably, of a very long journey that we have been on, and hopefully, listener, you have been on with us. If you've missed some of the previous 12 episodes in which we talked about the Halloween films, why don't you go back and listen to those? Because then you'll enjoy this one even more. I have the great pleasure of being joined by my longtime companion on this journey, the wonderful podcaster and raconteur, Spider Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Dan. Thank you for having me back. This film ends. It's coming to an end. This saga of ours, this bonding trauma, you, me, Howard, and all the various other guests have been through, is finally coming to an end. I sincerely doubt, the franchise will come to an end. Never name your films about the finality. The final this or the final that. The final fantasy, the final nightmare, the final whatever. Don't do it, because in these franchises, they're always going to come back. You can't kill the boogeyman, Dan.
Yes.
He's always going to find a way to come back.
Yes, a wise man once said that. Yeah, absolutely. I suppose I should introduce myself in case you don't know who I am. Although, if you have indeed listened to the 12 previous Halloween reviews, you're goddamn sick of me by now. I, sometimes known as TD Velasquez, I write about movies and TV and love those things. But you can call me Dan, dear listener. So there are two Dans right here. Although in a moment we'll be joined by our very good friend Howard, the actor Howard Whittock, who was right with us at the beginning of this journey and has been on every single Halloween episode we've ever done. Sadly, he cannot be here in person for this conversation, but I did ring him up for his thoughts on the movie earlier yesterday. And and Spider Dan and myself will react to Howard's thoughts in real time. We're hearing them, or rather, Spider Dan is hearing them for the first time as you hear them. I have heard them before because I was in that conversation, dear listener. And yeah, we're going to react to the movie Halloween Ends. Spider Dan, you just mentioned that, yeah, you should never use the word ends or final or whatever in your title. I would say with this movie, I had that thought for a different reason, because when it came out and it was called Halloween Ends, I thought, yeah, well, Halloween doesn't end, it comes back every year. That's the point. But anyway, the story of Halloween Ends, however, may surprise us after the previous movie. Listener, in case you didn't watch the movie before listening to this, I'm going to summarize the story now. There will be spoilers, so if you want to watch the movie, pause the podcast now, go and watch it. After I've done the plot summary, we'll hear my phone call with Howard and his reactions, and then Spider Dan and myself will react to those reactions. You're going to get a lot of reaction on this podcast. Okay, here comes the plot. Halloween Ends. And I'll enter that later, so please play down.
Hello.
Hello, Howard. A little bird tells me that you've watched Halloween Ends.
Oh, really? Somebody told you that, didn't they?
And the little bird also told me that you absolutely loved it and you thought it was delightful. Have I been misled?
I think somebody's been telling Porky Pies. Yes, I have watched it. Yes, and I will never have to watch it again, and that's good.
I mean,
Good.
but that's also what you said about Halloween Kills, and it was better than Halloween Kills, wasn't it?
Well, it was better than Halloween Kills. That doesn't mean to say it was any good.
Right.
Better than Halloween Kills, in the same way that a punch in the face is probably better than a kick in the balls.
Right.
But they're both equally excruciating in their way. No, to be honest, actually, I think this film annoyed me even more.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what they were trying to do.
Right.
At least in the others, it's Michael Myers killing people, so you know where you are. It's very boring and everything, but at least you know what it is. But in this one, they bring in another serial killer, and he goes around killing people in exactly the same way that Michael Myers does, because Michael Myers seems to be living in a sewer.
Yes.
For some reason. I know, accommodation's expensive these days, so to get what you can get. And of course, you don't know what he eats or drinks or anything, but he's living in a sewer, and this other lad who sort of, he decides, because of what happened, he accidentally killed a child, and so everybody in the town is bullying him and having to give him a hard time and everything, so he decides to become a homicidal maniac as well, and put a mask on and kill all the people who don't like him. So
yes, but that is kind of the second half of the film, and it's the less interesting part. I actually did quite enjoy it in the first half when I didn't know where it was going. That's what I enjoyed. I mean, I didn't think it was spooky or anything, but it did remind me a little bit of that feeling that you got from the first Halloween film of just not knowing what was going to happen. It's just a lot of people hanging around, and you think, where is this going? I'm not really sure. It didn't have a sense of building tension or anything, but I did think it was intriguing, and I did think he was quite a sympathetic character, really.
Well, no.
I mean,
I just don't think the dialogue is well written enough, and the characters are. They just don't affect me. I don't find any of them engaging, and I sort of did know where he was going when he was being bullied by those four people, and it seems like everybody in Haddonfield is really horrible because they're always shouting at each other and sort of like they're always having a go at Laurie for saying it's your fault that Michael Myers killed all those people or whatever, and the daughter.
Yeah.
And then they're sort of having a go at him, even though he sort of, killed this child. And also, perhaps, I'm getting old, but just having a dead child lying in a pool of blood, it doesn't really do much to me these days.
No, fair enough.
And I just, I didn't find it that very interesting because I just kind of knew how he was going to go. And then sooner or later he would end up killing people because why else is he there and everything. When those four bullies were having a go at him, I kind of thought, well, they're going to die. Either Michael Myers is going to kill them or he's going to kill them, but somebody's going to kill them. And that's what's going to happen, and that's what did happen. And no, I just again thought it was all a bit too contrived and a bit too sort of calculated.
I was definitely disappointed when he did his first killing, which was that police officer. I thought as soon as it's like, oh no, he's just become a murderer, which is what the rest of the movie seemed to be saying. No, but other people think he's a murderer, but he isn't, and that's the point. Whereas halfway through the film, he goes, "Oh no, right, I'm giving up. I'm just going to become a murderer." To be fair, I've listened to other analyses of the story, and people have pointed out that it does kind of make sense, the journey he goes on, and the way he ends up kind of killing himself, but making it look like Laurie killed him. And it's kind of seems to be building to one particularly dark ending for Laurie. But then the movie in the last 10 minutes switches tack completely, and it all becomes about Laurie and her granddaughter killing Michael Myers.
That's it. It's just sort of like you're doing this thing with Corey, and then he died, and then you bring back Michael Myers for for the denouement, for the final, and think, well, that's what these films are all about, isn't it? It's about her versus Michael Myers. Why have we brought this other? Why do you want two serial killers? Why do you want him and Michael Myers doing the same thing? You know what? You know. I just couldn't understand. I just didn't know what it was being said. Was it about something, the nature of evil? Is it that because he's been made a murderer by how other people treat him, or what? Or, you know, but it just, for me, it wasn't well written enough for that to make any impression, or for that to mean anything. And again, it's like everybody speaks the same way in these films, and there's no, I don't know. It's just just no real characterization to make these things affecting and effective.
For the first part of the film, when it was essentially a character drama, I did think this is okay, but I really should be much more invested in the love story, because that's what it's all about, really. And,
Yes.
and although those two actors are very good, I never really felt my heart touched by that storyline between them. I mean, you want to be on... I couldn't never really understand what it was about Corey that made Alison want to be with him.
No.
Um,
Maybe that was the problem. I just thought he's just a bit too much of a geek, or just a bit too whiny or whatever. And I think it's just because it's a Halloween film, so I know how it's going to go.
mm-hmm.
You know where you're going to end up. So no matter what happens earlier on, you know what's going. Somebody's going to start killing somebody. I thought, you know, when I first watched it, that it would be Corey telling Michael Myers to kill these people rather than him killing them himself. But I thought there was something, you know, whatever. But then it's just Corey's doing the killing, and then Michael Myers kills him, and then Michael, you know, it's just what.
Yes.
I didn't see the point. I didn't know what point was being made. I didn't know why they were doing that, because it just didn't come to anything. I didn't think. Maybe other people were more involved in it, but it just didn't mean anything to me, because these things are so predictable, and because we've seen so much killing in these films, so much of it,
Yeah.
that each individual killing has absolutely no resonance now and no meaning. So, you know, when he kills himself or whatever, it doesn't mean anything, because we've seen so much killing
Yeah.
that it just doesn't mean anything to me. I just hope. I'm trying to think of something, because I've always tried to be positive, I think, about these films. And the earlier ones, let's say, I think Donald Pleasance was good. I think Ellie Cornell was a good heroine in the ones she was in. And I think maybe some of those ones had ideas. And Halloween 2, I think, was quite well done for what it was. But I just can't... I think I've just seen too many of them now.
Mm.
It's just like overload, and too many just of the same thing, and it just doesn't mean anything to me anymore. And I'm never really been a fan of slasher films anyway.
Mm.
They were never really my thing. My thing was Hammer and Amicus and that. My thing is vampires and werewolves and Frankenstein and mummies and that sort of thing, and aliens and monsters and that sort of thing. That's what I like. You see, I was thinking Michael Myers is a character. He's the character that runs through all these films, and yet he's a character who has got absolutely no personality whatsoever.
Doesn't even speak.
Dracula, unlike Baron Frankenstein, unlike the poor guys who turn into the werewolf, he is just a blank. He's just the shape. He's called the shape.
Yeah.
He has nothing. He's just a man in a mask going around killing people, and he is the main character. So in all these films, you've got a central character who is like nothing, like just a blank character with no character. And you know, sort of, that's kind of, as time goes on, as you watch more of these films, that becomes more and more obvious that, you know, the main character is just nothing.
Yes. And they do try and make a little bit out of that in this film, I think. You know, Corey actually says you're nothing, you're just a man in a mask.
Yeah.
And something that really irritated me is that there are a few moments in the film where characters take his mask off him, and they're making the point that he's really feeble without his mask.
Yeah.
But the camera still never reveals his face. It always stays at a distance or stays behind him. And I think, well, no, if you're giving him that dignity of you're allowing him to keep his face hidden anyway, what's the point?
Yes, I did get a bit annoyed by that. So it's a mask that makes him the killer and everything, and without the mask he's vulnerable. But but because he always puts it back on,
Yeah.
you know, it's sort of, and because you know he's going to put it back on, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an interesting current thread that goes through a lot of these films, which is how the town was affected by these killings all these years ago and how it's affected the people.
Mm.
You kind of see that in some of the films, but in these films, the people seem so nasty and so vindictive that it's like, you know, there's the thing with the disc jockey, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah.
Suddenly, well, we hear him all through the film, but suddenly they're in a place and they're outside the radio station. He comes out and is as horrible as everybody else is and tells him to F off or whatever, and he goes back in and then Corey comes back and kills him. He kills the receptionist for no reason at all. You know, she's completely innocent. And then he kills the guy and cuts his tongue off and everything. And it's just like, again, you've just brought that character in just to kill him.
Yeah.
There's no other reason why he's there. And that's, you know, I just think that it's a more, I don't know, I just think there is an interesting idea there that how things affected the town and everything, how the people are. But the people in these films are just so unpleasant. I think it's just too much. It's, you know.
But also,
that 40 years later.
Yeah, I think that the fact that they're like generationally unpleasant, that they've been made like this by trauma, is interesting and could be a dramatically interesting position to develop. But you can't do that in a series where it's just rebooted and said that there've been no killings for 40 years. Then there were a load. And then none again for a couple of years. If this had actually been Halloween 13 or whatever it is, and it's referring to all the many years of killings that have gone on in this town, that would make more sense.
Well, it would make some sense. It's just that people seem... First of all, everybody in the town has lived there, presumably, for 40 years. They were all affected by it. Nobody else has come into the town, so they're all... But, you know, after 40 years, would they still be... You know, like this, and you know.
You'd hope not.
I think there's too much of. I think it's an interesting idea that's not done well.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the first one. They have clips of the first one, don't they?
Yes.
First Halloween film.
Yeah.
Which is a really great film.
Of course.
But the thing about the first Halloween is how simple it is, how minimal it is. There are not that many characters.
Yeah.
You know, it starts with the killing in the house, then you've got them in the car. And then the rest of it's just in a few streets. You don't see many people. You don't really see the town and the people in the town. They're just distant figures, and it's just the girls and everything and the boyfriend, and that's all you see. And it's so simple. And there's, as I've always said, you know, there's very few murders in that film, very few on-screen killings. And one of them, PJ Souls, is just strangled with a telephone wire.
That's not very time.
It's not gory at all.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the kind of the simplicity of the film has been sort of forgotten.
Yeah.
All the other films have complicated it, and it's all, you know, there's 5 murders in that, and there's about 20 murders in this one we're talking about. It's like,
Yeah, jeez.
you know, and I know that's what the audience wants, and I know some people love this film, and I know horror fans like this sort of thing. They like to see all that gore and everything. But I just think the first film succeeded because it was just so simple, and that is how you create tension. If there's one director who knew how to create tension atmosphere, it's John Carpenter in those days. Because when they're walking about, you really don't know what's going to happen. And it's the classic thing, she walks across the room and he's behind the window, and then she walks back and he's not there, or he's standing behind the washing line and then she looks again. That's what makes Halloween a great film. Not the killing, not stabbing people in the eye or cutting their throats or banging their heads against things. That sort of sense of what's going on, being unnerved and being unsettled, not being shocked or anything, but just being what is going on? Who is this bug? Why does it keep appearing? And you know, he's sort of playing with them, playing sort of Halloween. It's Halloween. He's playing like Halloween tricks on them.
Yeah,
actually, now you don't, and it's kind of like, and he only kind of kills them because there has to be some kind of threat and some kind of.
That's a disappointing thing which has developed over these 3 most recent films, because I thought from the first one that they sort of understood that a bit, because he do think like he sets up in a kind of almost impish, jokey way, scary Halloween tableaus, like when he makes that policeman's head into a lantern in the first of the 3 recent films. But as Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends continued, they do have things like that in them, but it's like it's really just a way of showing off the incredibly violent thing he's done. He's not just setting up something because it's kind of spooky and that he's really enjoys like frightening people, because the person who sees it, he will probably stump their head in about 2 minutes.
Yes, yeah. Well, there's a bit in the first one, in the Halloween 2018 one, where he's walking about and he goes into this woman's house, she's on the phone, and she's looking out the window and he just stabs her through the throat and goes out again. And
yeah.
What was the point of that?
Yeah.
There's no reason for him to do that. That's just completely gratuitous, completely nothing. And because we've seen so many murders before, it doesn't mean anything. There's no suspense. He just comes in, kills her, and walks out again. What? You know, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think by removing the plot device that Michael is Laurie's brother, they've removed his motivation, and they think, oh, it's much spookier when we don't know why he does what he does. And it's like, yeah, we don't know why, but we do know what he does, because he does it all the time. He just goes into any place where there is a person, immediately kills them in the nastiest way possible, and then moves on. And sometimes he sticks them to something, and he will look at them for a minute and like cock his head, and that's it.
And that's all taken from the first film. But in the first film, you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
You see, and you don't know why he's doing it, and it's sort of, you know, here. I think it's kind of impossible. The first film, you can't recreate the first film again, because the first film, it is unknowable. We don't know what he is or why he's doing it and everything. But as soon as you start doing sequels, you have to explain things, and you have to kind of expand it all, and all the mystery's gone of what he is. Sort of like, in the first film, he is sort of like a mystery figure. Why is he doing this? We don't know. What's he going to do? What's he going to do next? You can't do that in the sequels, because you know who he is and what he's doing. And by the time you get to this one, he's done it so bloody often.
Yeah.
You know, God,
I do think there could have been a way of continuing the story that expanded the mystery rather than slimmed it down, but I'll get into the detail of that with Dan, because I have a bit of a theory, and it's one of the reasons why I'm quite disappointed with the way all this kind of worked out. Howard, I know that we've been speaking for a few minutes, and you've been very forthright in your views. So let's wrap this up so I can discuss your points with Dan. But beforehand, I've got a couple of questions to ask.
Right.
One, did you notice the font on the opening credits?
For me, the most interesting thing about these films was the opening credits.
Right.
The pumpkin.
Yeah.
And then one where pumpkins come out of pumpkins, and then another pumpkin comes out. I thought that's really clever.
Yeah.
That's cleverer than anything else in the actual film. And hearing that music again is always...
Yes.
When at the credits of Halloween Kills and it said Charles Cyphers as Brackett and whatever, I thought, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he was still alive. So that's good, yeah.
I think that title sequence on Halloween Ends with the pumpkins coming out and pumpkins kind of states more effectively than the film itself does the kind of theme of evil giving way to further evil, and that's like Corey taking over from Michael, which then doesn't work because they bring back Michael for the ending. But what I was getting at when I mentioned the font on the credits was that for some reason the credits, the title credits are written in the same font in Halloween Ends as they were in the title sequence of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
I didn't know that though.
And I had two competing thoughts. One of them was, oh, that's like a clue that this movie is going to do something a bit different. But then I also thought, oh, but only people who care about that would notice. And that's a really minor demographic. You know, people who love Halloween 3, basically, and have watched it as many times as I have, would notice that. So, and I think that it is a hallmark of sequels like this and the many sequels that we get in the cinema now to, to movies that are 20, 30 years old. They kind of fixate on the wrong details.
Yes, I think there is a kind of obsession. I think they are kind of made for fans in a way.
Yeah.
They put these things in, the fans will appreciate that because they did that in that Halloween 4. And, even though they've said those films don't exist, they are little references and little in-jokes to the film.
And weirdly, the fans would probably be happiest if the film was not made at all, because they will happily just sit at home and watch their Blu-rays or DVDs of the earlier movies.
Yes,
that's what we're all going to be doing anyway. The final thing then is, mention them bringing Michael Myers back at the end. What did you think of the ending in terms of providing something which more or less none of the previous Halloween sequels did, which seems to be a fairly definitive end to the story?
Well, first of all, yes, I enjoyed the ending because I thought, yes, he can't come back.
Right.
That's it. And I was waiting for a twist. I was waiting after he'd been crushed and everything, that we're going to see all the rooms, shots of various houses and everything, and then you're going to start hearing him breathing again.
Right.
Or there's going to be some kind of last-minute twist that he's still alive. But no, he is dead. He is dead. And I was very pleased about that.
Right.
Thank God.
It's like,
I'm sure that somebody else will make another one sometime, and it'll be a prequel or something. They'll find a way around it, or it'll be another sequel to Halloween, and these films don't exist. Because you can do anything now, can't you? You can say that sequel doesn't exist, and that one didn't happen, and everything. So I'm pretty sure there'll be another one. But
bring back Rob Zombie.
Oh God.
God.
These films are better than his. You can at least say that.
Only because of who's in them. Though at their worst, they're kind of just as bad and feel quite similar, I think.
Yeah.
Certainly, the motif of the motif that they've got of Michael frequently killing people by smashing their head through something. I think that comes only from the Rob Zombie films. I don't think he did that in any of the others.
No. I don't remember it, no. Yeah, he's always, and he even smashed a child's head against it, which, again, I just squeamish about. But yes, that sort of thing, and he gouges somebody's eyes out, doesn't he, or crushes their eyes, and that sort of thing wasn't in the first one. It wasn't even in the second one, really. The second one was a bit more gruesome, but still wasn't that bad compared to what you get these days, I suppose.
No. Well,
I thought yes, I am satisfied with the ending.
I think it says something when he's survived being blown up, shot, fallen from a thing, and every time you expect him to somehow survive and be alive again. So in order to definitively kill him in this film, they had to feed him into a meat grinder on camera.
Yeah. In these films, he is not really a supernatural being, which he is in some of the others.
Well, he's not really, but he still can't die. He gets shot point blank many times. It keeps going. Nothing stops him ever, and it's just never really. They don't. Not only do they not explain it, they never have anyone say, "Whoa, why is he not dead? We've just beaten him to death with like 30 baseball bats."
Well, that's what I think. That's what people have said. It's like, if you have a villain who is indestructible, then there really is no drama.
Yeah.
And no tension, because he's just going to keep. You can't. He's just going to keep doing it, and so it's completely predictable. Well, there's just. And he did seem indestructible. I assume he is now dead. I don't think how he could survive that.
He looks pretty dead to me, but I think the Halloween franchise is probably not dead. It will always lurch back to life somehow. I think Malek Akkad and probably Blumhouse will make sure that's going to happen. But maybe we'll get a few years break. I don't know. There's already a Halloween game come out which has music by John Carpenter, so they're already looking for ways to extend the franchise always. But Howard, I think that brings us to the end of our chat about Halloween Ends.
Yeah, I think it does.
And I would just like to thank you for being with us and with me all the way through this journey, right through every single Halloween film. This was a journey that we started in 2018 and we're just concluding, and it feels like the epic conclusion to a saga. So thank you for so much, mate.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. No.
And
No, I've enjoyed talking about them. I just didn't enjoy watching them.
right. Yes, I could maybe expand on that. So I'll take us back to Dan, and we'll develop your points. But thank you so much, mate. This has been a real pleasure.
Yes, thank you very much.
Who knows? I hope that we don't have to torture you with another Halloween film in a few years, but who knows what's going to happen.
I will look forward to that.
Never close that door. Never assume that he's dead. Thank you so much, my friend.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right, I'll stop that record. Well. That's Howard, being as wonderfully Howardish as we've come to expect and love. I don't entirely agree with him on this one, so we can have a more well-rounded discussion about this movie. But there are just a few points that he said there that I feel I should respond to straight off the bat. At one point, I was talking about how we couldn't understand what it was that Alison saw in Corey, and Howard said, "Yes, he seems like too much of a nerdy geek to really be attractive or whatever." And I thought it's a bit rich of us, really, to have a go at a character for seeming like too much of a nerdy geek. And also, I just wanted to point out that Howard talks about how all these films are full of killings. And one of the things which impressed me about this movie is that for the whole first half of the movie, there aren't really any killings. I think there's one, and it's the death of the child, which is an accident. So it is trying to do something different. Yeah, it does go back to the killings in the end, but it does go to move towards that goal in a way that I found kind of quite refreshingly different. And the other thing I just want to mention from Howard's speech is the bit where he goes, "What? What's the point?" Which I wish somebody would sample and put on a dance track. I think that'd work really well.
Oh dear. I have to say, before I say anything about Halloween Ends, I should have said it in the last podcast, but it's really, really nice to hear Howard's voice again. It's really, it's been quite a few years since I've seen him in person, and it brought me so much joy when you played that for me, and the previous one as well. So I just wanted to say it was lovely to hear his voice and to have that charm and wit and energy that he brings to all these podcasts. I'm always in awe of that kind of the energy and the vibe he brings to this. It's the most entertaining critique you could hear, for someone who doesn't really like these kind of films, isn't really interested, but we'll do it for you, Dan. He'll do it for us, he'll do it for the listeners, and you have to give him credit for it. He does it in the most kind of erudite way, and old school kind of, again, Hammer horror, Peter Cushing, James Mason, all that sort of stuff, all kind of tied in there. What a wonderful presence he is. He's a wonderful actor anyway. We both worked with him before, but again, just his voice alone is wonderful. So I just wanted to say that before we go into anything else.
I'm delighted to hear that, Dan. I'm really glad that that you felt that way, because I feel that way too. It was lovely that he's been able to come back, because it has been so long, and because of things in his life, I was starting to think maybe we'll never do any more of these. But he's, I actually went round to his house and talked about Amicus films with him and met his lovely mum. And then I said, do you want to watch Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends and talk about it? And he said, yes. That was extraordinary. I thought, I've got to sweeten this bill somehow, but no, he was just up for it. And how wonderful. Yeah, we love you, Howard, and thank you so much. It wouldn't be the same without you, and we had to have you in at the end of this journey. And there'll be more from Howard yet to come. But maybe talking about movies that he's a bit more naturally positive about. I do think that in the conversation between me and Howard just then, we do occasionally sound like the grumpy middle-aged guys we are. It's like horror films aren't good anymore like they were in our day. Oh dear. I'm just like agreeing with each other. So I'm hoping, Dan, that you will bring some fresh perspective to this and some much needed positivity. And I'll be able to join you, I think, but we'll see what you say.
I will certainly try my best. So bringing up the Halloween 3 font, I thought that was very telling. As you mentioned, they are going to try something different, and this film does. Whether it fully succeeds in this experiment, I don't know. But I appreciate the effort and the commitment that they gave this idea, this story. Again, it's not going to be for everyone. Not everyone's going to vibe with this. Like you said, a lot of the Halloween fans are wanting the killings. I want to see all the killings. Just a reference League of Gentlemen there. Yeah, exactly. It's all about the kill. Does Richard I have lots of killings? Does he have more killings than Predator? One of my guests, Dan Keatis, likes to do that. He's one of his favorite things to reference. But there's a reason they use that font. There's a reason they use the coloring, because they know going in that this is gonna be divisive.
Yeah.
Off the bat, that's me. That is them telling us again, like you said, this is gonna be something different. You might like it, you might not, but we're gonna go for it. And this idea has been teased in this franchise, not only this franchise, but several other kind of slasher franchises. I think Chucky, Child's Play franchise, I think may have done it. Friday the 13th definitely did it. Like the evil changing shape, as Laurie puts it in this film, and becoming somebody else or being passed on. And I disagree with Howard. I think they do really push the evil and the supernatural element, especially when Corey there's that shot where he sees Michael and we kind of have this kind of eyeball, him going into his eye and it coming back, and them kind of seeing into each other's souls almost, or it's almost like it's starting to be passed on, or there's a similarity there between these two people. Not the same, absolutely not the same character, but there is something there within him that this other particular character is about to bring out or potentially strengthen, or their connection, because they do become this kind of like, elderly person and their carer and kind of protege and old killer. There's this thing, and there's a moment especially where at the beginning of the film Howard talks about the bullies who are the band camp, which is weird to me. Like, we've gone from like the band camp being bullied back in like our childhood. They would have been bullied, because they were in the band, like American Pie, for example.
Yes.
She's in the she's in the band camp. She's bullied, and they think she's a loser because she does that. And now we're like, no, these are the bullies. These are the menacing bullies.
Right. I'd not picked up on the fact that they're from the band camp.
Because the guy's twiddling he twiddles the drumsticks, and they've got like the kind of half of the uniforms on, or part of the uniforms on. So they're now the bullies.
Yeah, I'm not paying attention. I'm fixating on the wrong details. I am suffering from the same faults that I might accuse the filmmakers of.
True, potentially.
I will tell you what, though, having listened to what you say and some other kind of positive critiques of this movie, some of which I will, particularly the Red Letter Media one, which I will link to in the show notes. I do think I probably will watch this movie again, because I feel like I missed some qualities, especially in the first half, which, as I say, I did enjoy. There is real time and detail put into the development of Corey's journey as a character. And I
Yes,
think
100%.
shout out to the actor playing Corey, Rowan Campbell or Rohan Campbell.
Yes.
I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I think he's quite good, especially in the earlier parts of the movie when he is playing the sympathetic Corey. I think as Corey becomes the killer, as he is corrupted by evil, maybe the actor doesn't do enough with it. Or I think maybe it's not his fault. The script asks him to do very little. In the Halloween universe, when you are possessed by evil, that means you have dead eyes, and he's not really able to do much other than that. And it's not.
No,
It's a
and I
very
mean he's not. Again, it's there's hints that he's going to be like Michael eventually, like that he's on that path, but he's nowhere near that. And like he wants to be, like he's like you said, he's just a man. You're just a man in a mask. Show me how to do it. Make me know how to, do this or maintain this, and then we do at the kind of junkyard later on. He does kind of embody Michael. He wears the get-up, he wears the mask. He's able to kind of sort of teleport almost and be in several places at once.
Yeah.
And he's able to dodge out the way of bullets and various other things.
Well,
so
and also
I think we would get there.
I mean, at the end of the movie, it isn't. Well, not the end of the movie, is it? It's quarter of an hour toward the end. But when Laurie shoots Corey, Laurie and Corey, is that a deliberate rhyme? I don't know. I've only just realised Laurie and Corey. When she shoots him, he just shrugs it off like Michael Myers does. She shoots him point blank in the chest, and it doesn't stop him.
This was a thing I was going to get to as well. Like going back to what I was saying about him, the supernatural being a thing. Like we see Michael he helps Michael kill someone, and we see Michael kind of writhe, almost like he's getting his power back, or there's something happening to him as well. And he starts. He's not as awkward or crooked, like, or, arthritic or whatever you want to call it. He starts doing more and more killings and gets more and more lithe, and he's able to do that. And then again, later on, he's able to kill Corey while Corey is again healing. He stabbed himself. He was shot. He was stabbed. But he's still alive. He's bleeding, but he's still alive.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the main telling point for me is when they're killing the doctor and the nurse, the new head nurse, and he's still assisting him with the scarecrow mask. He takes off his bandage from his earlier injury where he was attacked by the bullies and he fell on the broken glass bottle of chocolate milk, and he cuts his hand. He's pulling the glass. He goes to the hospital. Laurie takes him, helps him out. But when Michael is doing the killings, he takes the bandage off and he starts flexing his hand and his fingers like it's healing or it's healed. Like he's getting better because he's embodying the evil that Michael is. Slowly but surely, he's gaining that power. So that for me was a big indicator. Again, I think it's not entirely clear what. When they get together, what's going to happen? Is he going to kill him? Is he going to become the protege? What Howard said is he going to guide the hand of Michael? He's going to say who needs to kill and why they need to die. Is it going to be this kind of situation? And then is he going to replace him? Would Michael allow that? Is this going to be, is it going to be a twosome? Are we going to have like several slashers going on and them like double teaming people, or corralling them, in some way? I don't know. But the main issue, though, I think, is we know this is the last one in this series. We know this is the final. It's called Halloween Ends. So this timeline is going to end, one way or another. We know it's going to end. So if you are going with this idea that he's going to be replaced, like Howard said, he's just a man in a mask. He's got no personality, no backstory. He doesn't have a voice. He is a blank. He's a shape. So why not fully replace him with someone else, with someone that has a tortured backstory, is interesting, can speak? Why not fully go through with that idea? Again, I commend them for going through on this idea. I think it's very brave. Again, also, this was not what this film should have been originally. Because of COVID, they decided to rework this, because I think what they wanted to do was have it all take place on the same Halloween night in 2018, I believe.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I know the ideas are out there somewhere. I think someone's written them down. I think there's some links to Halloween 3 perhaps as well. But that didn't occur because of it was a mandated. There had to be a mandated time jump because of COVID. So they had time to rework things and change things. So this isn't what was originally intended. I think it would have worked better if they knew that that was the case, and then peppered Corey's story throughout the films, like he encounters Michael in 2018, and then we see this. But the fact that they get to the end, I feel like this is such a producer thing that we get to the end. The Accards are doing it again. I think the Accards doing this. They get to the end and they go, and they've run with his idea for the entire film, and then right at the last minute they shit the bed and go, but it's called Halloween Ends. We've got to do Michael Myers, so we just have to bring him back. It doesn't make any sense. There's no point to it. And then we get this, a worse sequence than 2018. We got the fight that we always wanted, the battle we always wanted, the ending we always wanted in 2018. And this is like, a dark kitchen room, and it's not as interesting. It's not as fun. It's not as well structured. It's not as well paced. It's not as interesting. The journeys for Laurie and Corey and I agree, the love story doesn't work for me. I think the thing is, I want these characters to be happy as well. I want it to end well. I know it's not going to end well, but I like these characters enough that I'm happy to follow the story. And even though if it's a bit jumbled and Laurie's doing this kind of thing, she's trying to rework her life and mend her ways and be different from what she did because she lost her daughter. And I can kind of understand that. I don't know if it entirely works for me. But why not go whole hog? Because this timeline is ending. So why not go whole hog with the idea of, for once, let's kill Michael off permanently and let's have somebody replace him. And then if you want, you can carry on that timeline. Tell new stories, tell different stories. If he now can speak and converse with people, is that different? How would you make a Halloween movie that would work with an antagonist like that? How different would it be? How exciting for a new filmmaker or creator to come along and go, right, this is the newest kind of Halloween we can ever have because it doesn't have Michael in it. And again, we know this is ending anyway. Even if it did continue, or they tease that it might continue, we know this is going to be the last one. So why not fulfill the risk you're already taking? You've taken it 90% of the way. Just take it the rest of the way. But no, we have to have the Michael comes back, the music plays, he tries to stab Laurie, she fights back. They come back. And then, I do like that they go into the industrial shredder. I do like that they put him in there.
Right.
I did enjoy that because I feel like that's definitely a very Jamie Lee Curtis kind of thing. We've got to kill him, and we've got to make sure he, after the H2O situation, which she was not a fan of, historically, she was like, if we're killing him, and we're like mushing him into little bits. We're going to do it.
I enjoyed that too. I mean, I was saying to you on the previous episode that I felt very thrilled when they actually did some permanent damage to Michael in 2018 by chopping off 2 of his fingers. They certainly do some permanent damage to him in this one. And the scene in the kitchen scene at the end where basically Laurie and Alison just wail on him, break his arms, rip his hands in half, and all this stuff. It's like insane, and I did enjoy it, and it did feel like, they're doing something that they've not done before. And I like your reading of the paths they could have gone down, but it strikes me as weird that the paths are kind of weirdly self-contradictory. So, yes. In the last Halloween film, if it was about Michael essentially fading away, but his power being passed to another killer, that's an end to Michael Myers' story then. But it's not an end to the Halloween, the Haddonfield saga.
True.
It's a way of continuing it. Whereas making it all about Michael and then killing him at the end does actually put a full stop on it. But of course, this movie kind of does both. And I think you're right. it does seem like a producer's decision. They bottled it on the path they wanted to take. I mean, what I think is most successful about this movie conceptually is that it kind of finds a way. It flips the script on the format that we've had in many of these sequels, which is they're just death scenes for lots of characters who come in just to die, and they're not around. And that's frustrating in the earlier films because, especially in the ones without Loomis or without Laurie, you don't have a central character to focus on, because the nearest thing to a central character is Michael, who is killing them all, but he is a blank, and therefore there is no personality to the movie. Corey, though, is not a blank, and we can relate to him in a lot of ways, and the people he kills are not just randomers, apart from, I think Howard is right, that he just kills the secretary, the receptionist at the radio station for no reason.
You are correct, yeah.
But every other character is like someone who we've been able to spend a little bit of time with, and who we know that they've victimized him or wronged him in some way. So it's vaguely understandable. Not the lengths that he goes to punish them, but that he would have some amount of resentment towards them.
Yeah.
So therefore, yes, you have a new character, and you possibly also have this device of that even if that character dies, then the evil then passes on to somebody else. So you could do a series of stories about different people essentially being corrupted by the evil of the town of Haddonfield. And that is a different take on the overall franchise and the concept of the series of films. You know, it's a whole new vision, which, I mean, it's moving even further away from the things I liked about the original Halloween, but it's not moving away from it in a way that lacks meaning, and it's something that I could find interesting.
It's not uninteresting as well. Like it's not like it's like again, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't work for me, and I think it is lesser on a rewatch as well. You know,
right.
I don't particularly see what she sees in Laurie. I see that he's damaged, he's troubled, and she's damaged, and you know, a little troubled as well. And you know, and they've both been victims of this horrible situations.
I think you meant Corey there. You said Laurie. It's the Laurie,
did I say?
Corey thing.
Oh, did I say? Oh, sorry, Corey. Sorry, I meant to say Corey or Rowan, the actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see particularly what she sees, but I can understand to a degree. I don't think the love story works, but again, I do like the characters. I appreciate the characters. We spend a good deal of time with Corey. I tell you who I do love. I love his stepdad. Like the only person who's actually bloody nice to him. His, you know, is his stepdad, other than Laurie and Allison. And then there's the odd people who goes, "Oh, he's a nice boy, but he's a nice boy, but." You know, and it's very typical that the second these characters start to be a little bit happy, somebody comes in and absolutely destroys that. Like, you know, Rory's dancing and drinking in the bar, and then he sees the mum of the child he accidentally murdered, killed, manslaughter, and she talks about it and, you know, brings him down. And then when Laurie's considering like a romantic, you know, pursuing romantic interest in Will Patton's character, you know, the ghost of Michael Myers comes back with one of their victims who has surprisingly survived that bloody
the
fluorescent light
in the
to the neck
thing. Yeah, jeez. But
that was the thing I noticed on this rewatch as well, is that she you know, the scene where they redo the grave thing, where they go to Judith Meyer's grave, the podcasters in 2018.
Yeah,
that's the same woman that shows them around.
Oh, is it? Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah, that was one thing I didn't notice. Again, she's got a hat on, so you can't really tell, and they don't focus on her. But it is the same woman. Right. And again, that boy that was babysat in 2018 is walking with the people in Haddonfield at the end of this film.
I did spot him. Yes.
Yeah. So they're really good. But yeah, I like the this one really doubles down on the kind of tragedy and the tragic elements of Halloween and this trauma, like you said, what it's done to the town and the way it's corrupted the town to a degree. Like again, I forgot that I thought the Corey babysitting situation happened in 2018 as well. I
Right.
thought that occurred at the same time, but actually it's a year later in 2019, which I didn't realize. But it makes sense because the kid's like obsessed with Michael Myers, so that would make sense if 2018 happened the year before. I know that Howard doesn't like the idea of children dying and kids suffering, but I did kind of laugh when that kid died because it's so sudden and
Yeah.
so violent. I was like, and it's like, oh, it's just like,
took me completely by surprise, and I thought, what the hell is
Yeah.
going on here? Where is this going? Yeah.
Again, I might be a sicko, but I tend to laugh when things are like overtly violent. Again, in real life, if I see something violent, I'm absolutely would never laugh. I would be shocked and appalled. But in the movies, obviously, there's such over the top, and violent nature and cartoony nature of some of them. It does make me kind of like, I don't know. Some people laugh at funerals. I don't laugh at funerals, but it's that almost like
No.
that you're uncomfortable in some ways.
Dan, don't worry. I'm completely with you. And that kid was a brat. I was going to say twat.
Oh, that as well. That as well. So I think not that he deserved it, but I was kind of like, not
he
entirely
didn't deserve it, but
feel too bad.
He asked for it. He was only in that situation because of what he was doing to victimize poor Corey. The kid is the engineer of his own fate. No, he doesn't deserve it, but he did it. It's not Corey's fault.
Yeah,
it's his fault.
I also noticed this time as well that Corey picks up a knife because the kid disappears and he starts thinking that Michael's out there and he needs to protect himself. So I thought that was going to play. I was like, oh, does that play into how he ends up dying? I think I'd half forgotten. I was like, does he have a knife and the kid's scared and locks him in, or is there some other? And I was like, and I think it's kind of a subtle thing saying, why did he pick up a knife? But I think it is because he thinks Michael's back or returned because they never caught him, never found him. He doesn't just stand there and let the police arrest him this time. He actually disappears.
Not this time. Mm-hmm.
No, not this time. He disappears, and again, we find him living in the sewer, eating rats or dogs or whatever he's eating. Whatever he likes to chomp on this time. But yeah, so I wondered if that was like maybe a subtle hint that maybe he took the knife because there's still something inside him, that's because Michael is diminishing in power perhaps, and that's already kind of maybe making its way over to Corey, but. Again, I think I'm reading too much into that personally, but it was interesting to see that he picked up a butcher knife, the weapon of Michael Myers, the killer.
Yeah, no, I think you might be onto something there. I think there is a remarkable amount of subtlety in this movie until there isn't. It's not subtle at all in certain respects, but in terms of the arc of Corey, it shows amazing restraint, not to explain things overtly, to leave a load of it to the audience to put together. I think that's commendable. And I think it's a really interesting movie. And you know what I like best about it, Dan? You can imagine that Halloween Kills didn't happen. Because Halloween, there's nothing that happened in Halloween Kills apart from the woman getting the fluorescent in the throat is really referenced. I mean,
and again, that was very, very poorly received, that film anyway. Yeah. So maybe that was the decision to be different or to have it work differently, even though they had an idea of where they would go. They went, no, let's change it up. Let's do this. Maybe they talked to Jamie Lee Curtis. Maybe they spoke to some of the other people, again, discussed with the producers. Who knows? I do know that the director, he knew this was going to be divisive because he went up to Rowan and said, you might be hated for this. For this
Right.
character, you may be hated, you may get some backlash, you might get some social media, you know, people coming on and kind of ripping your performance or messages or maybe even death threats. But they said, you know, they may not like this character because of this arc and because what it represents. With Michael, like again, like Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4, we get that very epic ending. No, 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 with the clown, the knife, the mum's killed. Halloween 5. No, we're going to forget that.
Yeah.
We're going to chicken out again and
Walk
not
it back
do that.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
But again, I think it's brave and I commend it. Again, even John Carpenter, someone asked him about it and he said, you know, David was trying something.
yeah.
Was he entirely successful? I don't think so, but he was trying something, and you've got to respect that. I think, you know, however you feel about the film, it led, at least for the majority of the film, for, you know, 3/4 of it, you know, or more, went with that main intention, that idea. And it's interesting because the actor actually, it reminded me about like Silent Night, Deadly Night, which goes in, it's a slasher movie, very sleazy, but I kind of enjoy it. But it goes in very deep into the origin of that character and why he does what he does, why he snaps. You know, he's, you know, Catholic, his parents are killed by a Santa, you know, he's
Right.
raised by these horrible nuns that abuse him, and you know, he puts in this kind of like, you know, absolute moralism into his situation, and then over Christmas he just snaps and is like punishing naughty people, you know, as dressed as Santa.
Right.
Again, I enjoy it for what it is. It's not a classic,
I
but it's
haven't
being
seen it, but
remade.
it sounds like fun.
Yes, I'd give it a go. I think it's fun, but yeah, it is what it is. It was remade in 2012, and it's being remade again. But they have cast Rowan as Billy,
Oh,
as
interesting.
the lead.
Right.
So I think it's off the back of this and this performance and the fact that he is, you know, giving it his all. You know, he plays this troubled character that's, you know, psychologically not sound, but has been abused, and you know, and apparently it's been shown at some festivals recently, and it's getting a good. They say they take it in a very new direction, which again is very much like this film, going and doing something different with it, and taking a risk with it. So that's out in December, so I will see it. I'll let you know what I think. I'm sure.
Can't wait.
Um,
Might go see it
and
myself.
yeah, but I'm glad the actor is not being like, obviously arguably you could say he's being pigeonholed or typecast, but I'm glad that he's still getting work, because I don't think he deserves any hate for this film or any hate for the decisions that were made. I think it's all down to writing, directing, and producing. I never blame an actor really for what the film end up being. They do what they're told, they're directed how to do it. Again, you can still give a bad performance anyway, don't get me wrong, but I think I go to the top when it comes to problems with films. I don't tend to start. I don't punch down or double down on the people at the bottom end of the rung of this ladder. It's always the people at the top with the money making those decisions that you need to look at. But yeah, I absolutely do not hate this film. I do not think it's perfect. Again, Laurie's stuff that she's got going on, again, there seems to be quite a bit of humor in this, which again I don't mind. Again, it's not goofy or over the top, and I think it does fit within. Again, you need lightness, you need the lightness in the darkness and the contrast, or it just wouldn't work. But yeah, I think this is a mixed film, a mixed bag, but I still respect what they at least attempted to do, but still ultimately kind of failed doing.
That's very diplomatically put, Dan. And I do agree with you. I think I would like it even more if it wasn't a Halloween film. As in,
Mm.
even though uh, Laurie's in it and Curtis is good, I don't think she's the main character. I think it is Corey's story. She's a supporting character. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have been my favourite film ever, but it would have been a very
Yeah.
complete film if it was a real standalone piece um, that told us all about Corey, and that the character of Laurie takes over at the end and becomes the lead. And I don't think that's where she's meant to be. Actually, another thing I really like about this movie as a sequel to to 2018 is that it really does show Laurie having moved on and set about forging a proper life. It's not just carrying on with more killings the same night. And although I've just said that you can kind of pretend you pretend Halloween Kills didn't happen. Um, I think that's mainly true, apart from the absence of Judy Greer's character Karen. She's died, and her death the grief of that is still felt by Laurie and Alison. But it's 4 years later; she could have died in any way. You know, the fact that Alison's parents are both dead is kind of important, but exactly how they died doesn't matter too much. And there's
I think they do show clips. They do kind of do a very there's a bit of a forced kind of remember these films, the kind of catch up section where they do show it. But again, you don't need to see the full film. You kind of get it there. So you almost don't need to watch it if you didn't want to. Yeah, more things occurred that night, but if you didn't want to watch it, I think you're right. I think you can just carry on.
And there's also something built up in Halloween Kills about the Myers house being important. He needs to stand by that window and things. And indeed, that's where Karen is killed, I think. No, she isn't. She's in a different house. But anyway, whereas one of the
she goes. I'm pretty sure she goes back there, and that's the point because she's trying to understand She's trying to understand Michael.
Yeah.
So she goes back to the house on her own because she's talked about it. She was like, "It's here," because she leads. You are correct. So she leads him away and has the gotcha moment with Tommy and Brackett and everybody comes en masse.
Yeah.
And then later on they get to because she's helping Alison go into the hospital and all that. And while they're putting her in the ambulance, she just kind of wanders back to the Myers house and stands in that window. And then when Michael's killed all the people, the greatest comeback I've ever seen of anyone like down and out. That's a hell of a comeback. I give him that. But then, so she is standing in the window. It's kind of, and I think that's, in some ways, the other films did make the Myers house a focal point of evil or Michael's obsession and the family.
That's reasonable, and I think they could have done more with that. But I think it makes a strong statement at the start of this film that almost the first thing they say is that the house was demolished, and it's never referred to again. It's just like, forget all that, we're going to do something different. And I don't know if it was Green and Danny McBride, who were both involved in the scripts for both the previous films, who were behind the different direction of this movie. From what you're saying, it sounds like it was them. But this, it feels almost like a kind of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker situation where different writers come in and just go, never mind about all that, we're just going to do this.
Yeah.
And
you're right. You're right. That opening does feel a little bit like COVID has happened because they did the same with Mission Impossible. They had this very awkward opening segment because a lot of time had passed, and they made out that this was the following one. It was a quick thing and it was going to be filmed back to back, but actually because of COVID they couldn't, so they had to kind of put these very forced kind of intro reminder kind of previously on X-Men kind of thing, previously on this show kind of introduction, and and you can feel it here as well in this film because of COVID, and it is what it is. But there's definitely a feeling that it's not a retcon. We're not retconning anything. We're just, like you said, that decision to be like, oh yeah, house is gone, don't worry about the house. He's not in the house. He's not staying in the house. He's not safe in the house. It's gone. But I thought that as well. And we talked about that, didn't we? Me and Sean, I think, talked about Star Wars, didn't we?
Oh, we did. Yes. I think that this is probably more successful than that example in terms of developing a storyline. Well, rather, it doesn't. Halloween Kills doesn't have the problem that. Sorry, Halloween Kills. Getting all titles mixed up. Halloween Ends is commendable in that it does not do what Rise of Skywalker did, which was basically say, we're going to undo or change everything that the previous film did, but we're going to keep all those characters and yet bring in some more. This one goes, no, all the people who died in the last film, they're going to stay dead. We're not going to really bring many more characters in, and we're going to have be its own story. I like the fact that Carl Richards as Lindsay Wallace. She's the only one of the returning characters from Halloween Kills who was not killed, and she is still alive and in this movie. Yeah, she doesn't get anything to do, but she doesn't get anything to do in a good way, I think. She's just a normal person living a life, and Laurie's sequences are a bit like that as well. She's moved on now. She's just living her life, and I thought that was quite good. In all kinds of ways, I think this is it's a nasty, violent horror movie. It's not going to be to everybody's taste. I can understand why it's not to Howard's taste. It, um, and it would not be the movie that I would want a sequel to Halloween to be. But I'd rather watch this than watch the previous film and many of the previous sequels, because at least this A stands alone and B is doing something different, and I do think and that is commendable. And even when it ultimately bottles it and brings back Michael Myers at the end, at least it then does something which has never been done before with him, which is kill him off, mincemeat him on camera. That made me laugh. Um, and there are all kinds of things in it that tickle me as a fan of this franchise. I talked about the title font. I don't know if this is real or I'm imagining it, but I kind of almost thought that the Carpenter and Co. in the music were like referencing Halloween 3 a bit as well. It was like it was the
Probably.
Michael Myers Halloween theme, but kind of overdubbed with not overdubbed, but kind of arranged in a way that was more akin to the Halloween 3 score, which is the same score, literally the same music that Carpenter and Alan Howarth used in Christine. Those movies were made very close together, and I think they just went, yeah, it doesn't matter, we'll just spread it across both movies. And Christine is the Carpenter movie that this most feels like. It's about a kid who works at,
Yeah.
he's a bullied kid working in a garage, and he exacts revenge on the bullies via vehicles. There are parallels, and yeah.
Both lose their glasses as they become more evil.
Oh, I see. There are little details that I've not picked up on yet. So yeah. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this movie, and yes, I think I might well watch it again one day. But I think my ultimate takeaway from the 3 recent Halloween films is what I said to Howard, that I'm just pleased about how they've provided a revival to Curtis's career and also Carpenter's, doing the music for these and the game and other horror movies, which is the best thing for me. The remake of Firestarter, which I haven't seen yet, that's music by Carpenter and Co. That's, so I do think that thrilling things have come out of this. I just don't like the movies as much as I would wish, but this is probably the most interesting of the 3.
Even my nephew became a fan of Michael Myers. Like when he was far too young for it. He's still too young for it now. He's only like 8 or 9.
Right.
But he became obsessed with all these horror characters like Chucky, like Jason, like Freddy, like Michael. Michael was his favorite. He has this little, he'd hold the phone and he'd play the music and it would always be the Halloween theme. So even and like my kind of basically my stepdad and I were blamed for his interest in this. And I was like, I never talk about horror movies with him. Like they were like, oh well, you know, your stepdad has all these tattoos with Pinhead and this and that, and I'm like, yeah, but he doesn't talk about them. He doesn't go, oh, this is this, and he does this or he does that. What it'll be is he's on TikTok or YouTube and he's seeing them do like silly dances and stuff like that. There's no, and I think my sister even put Halloween on for him, the original Halloween, because I said that's the tamest.
Right.
So if you know, put it on, see how he does. If he's too scared, just turn it off. We're just turning it off. You know, you're too young for it. If you can't take it now, you won't be able to get to the end if you're scared now. So yeah, and I think she did. I think he was too scared and they turned it off.
Right.
But I was like his age and obsessed with these kind of characters, larger than life characters. Even if I hadn't seen the films, there was all the video cassettes and covers in the stores and the blockbusters and stuff. You just know, Even kids would talk about these characters. You just knew.
In some cases,
yeah,
kids' cartoons as well, and toys and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if there's anything that's franchisable and sellable, it's these kind of horror franchises. You know, people are still buying toys and video games. We've got a Hellraiser video game coming out, Halloween video game coming out. You've had Killer Clowns, Texas Chainsaw, Friday the 13th. You know, it's still very much in the zeitgeist, even if it's not. You know, Jason hasn't had a movie in several years, but he's now starting to come out after the court decision that his rights are now, you know, free to use effectively to a degree. You know, we're going to see more of that. And, you know, a whole new generation, a whole new audience are going to decide whether or not they like the new one, and the old audience as well. And they may revisit the other films and may revisit other stuff and find new, you know, appreciation for these things.
You know, and there's always potential for something really interesting to do that. Often it is not done. But, you know, this movie that we've been talking about, Halloween Ends, does show that every now and then it pays to have a different take, to take a different path, and interesting things can happen. So, you know, always have an open mind on these things. So, Dan, this has been an epic journey.
Yes.
You and I and Howard and our several compatriots have been through, but especially we three have really done the trek together. So coming out of this movie, particularly this trilogy and this overall saga, what are the thoughts you're left with?
I think 2018 is a good film. I think it's enjoyable and is a good one-off. I think it's one of the better sequels to Halloween, or reimaginings of Halloween, and whatever you want to call it, reboots. I think Halloween Kills is not good, but if you want to watch it, fine. But I don't think it adds much to the Halloween story, the arc, or anything. If you want to see some cool kills, then you know you can see all the killings. But I think Halloween Ends, as divisive as it is interesting at the very least. And I appreciate the try, the effort that a big, when a franchise, like, very rarely does a franchise surprise me. These big franchises, you know, Last Jedi surprised me. You know, and there's been very few films where big franchises have surprised me. 28 years later surprised me quite a bit, which again I loved. You know, again, say what you will, it's divisive. You know, the end of that film, but it made me laugh. No spoilers.
We don't have time
spoilers.
to review it, but I will say that yes, the ending. That's what I would say to people who've not seen it. The ending will definitely make you want to watch the next one, and I do want to watch the next one. So.
And does it, like, that ending? You could say, you know, does it absolutely, like, ruin the rest of the film for you? Maybe could do. It's very tonally different, but I kind of respect it because of how much of a left turn it is. And again, this film kind of surprised me as well. Like, I didn't think we'd get Michael in a meat grinder, you know, but we did. You know, it's you know, I like a franchise film, you know, ones that, you know, again, redo the same, like Howard's saying, redo the same story over and over again till we're numb to it. You know, when they take a risk or take a chance, that is exciting. no matter how you feel about it, it gets people talking. Last Jedi got people talking. Halloween Ends got people talking. 28 years later got people talking. And I like that, whether I hate it or I love it. However, that's exciting to me. And I think Halloween Ends does do that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, a very good note to end on. I agree entirely. And yeah, that's the end of, I think Halloween Ends is the end of this journey. But we can never say absolutely for certain. But here we are, and we've made it down. We've survived.
We did.
We'll be
We
right
did.
back
You can
next week. Nothing can possibly go wrong. There's nobody's going to stab me through the back of the throat as I speak. It's absolutely foolproof.
You listeners can decide which one of us is Laurie, which one of us is Dr. Loomis, and which one of us is Michael Myers. We're the three staples of this podcasting franchise. But yeah, you decide who's which.
Well, no, Michael Myers is the one who's been here, sitting next to me all the time, never said anything.
You're just off camera. Just off.
Down, Michael.
Has he killed again?
Oh, dear. That's the wonderful thing about Michael Myers. He's such a great character for audio. I'm surprised they haven't done a whole series of radio dramas about him.
I mean, you never know. You never know. It's wonders never cease.
Well, yes, it's the next one. I know some radio producers. Maybe that's an idea to be pitched. It's like Hardcore Henry. Oh my God, that can be the next movie. It's entirely from Michael Myers' point of view. You don't have to hire an actor, just a camera. Let everybody else do the acting.
There are. I mean, there are films that have been made that have done that, but I and it makes sense with that character, with the way we meet Michael, would make absolutely. And I think fans would actually probably like that in a way, in a sense.
I mean, yes, you remind me. Of course, it has been done, hasn't it? There was that recent movie. Is it called something of violence?
Yes, yeah, and I think the one with Elijah Wood, was it Maniac? I think that was told from his perspective, his point of view. Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's been done, but you know what? That never has
maybe
filmmaker.
This Halloween movie could do it best. You never know.
So
maybe it needs to be successful. It needs Michael behind the eyes.
Behind the eyes, the blackest eyes. Well, God, I was going to do the Loomis speech, but I was doing the voice of Quint from Jaws because they both talk about black eyes. So you do a mashup. You know the thing about a shark is he has black eyes like a doll's eyes. Yeah. Anyway, no, that was entirely the wrong voice. Dan, thank you so much. We've made it. We've survived, and I couldn't have chosen two better companions on this journey than yourself and Howard. And I'm glad that it ended in this place.
So I know it's taken some time for us to get back together, but I think it was well worth it.
I'm glad you think so. I think so too. I hope you think so too, dear listener. Thank you for keeping us company and for having us in your ears all this time. For all these years. We'll be back together, maybe when there's a new Halloween film, maybe before that, maybe something else. I hope that we'll all be talking about something else new soon. But in the meantime, Howard has got some Amicus films he'd like to tell us all about. And I may also be quite keen on talking about them too. So that is in the next episode that you'll hear, dear listener. In the meantime, thank you, Dan. Thank you, listener. Thank you, Howard, although you can't hear me say this, but thank you so much. We'll all be back in some form or another. Happy Halloween. And bye-bye!